Most studios make their villains pointless.
Help me. Lame, 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 lame.
But the ones from Sony are out here making valid points and a frickin' lot of sense.
If you hadn't been bit, your Peter Parker would have lived.
We're going to be looking at 6 Sony villains who were labeled the bad guy despite being on the right side of things. Starting off our list is a villain who's actually so righteous that he feels guilt for the evil he caused. I'm referring to Jinu from K-pop Demon Hunters. For all our law nerds out there, you know you can't punish someone for something they were forced to do. So let's really be honest with ourselves. Jinu wasn't being evil by his own accord. He was just acting under the direction of Guima.
So let me get back to work, and you'll be feasting in no time.
He has the same relationship that Darth Vader had with Darth Sidious, an evil character serving an even more evil character. Cliche, isn't it? Well, if the Star Wars storyline is anything to go by, we all know what happens when an evil character serves an evil overlord. But did Jinu take the same route? Well, let's look at the facts, shall we? Jinu was only serving Guima because he was the only person who could grant Jinu what he really desired.
The memories, I want them erased.
Come on, guys. Jinu has been alive for nearly half a millennium. If there was some other less evil way to get rid of his memories, I'm sure he would have tried it and stopped serving Guima the first chance he got. How do we know this? Seeing how half-hearted he serves Guima should give us a hint about where his true allegiance lies.
That's funny. I thought for a moment you actually believed you could be free.
Riddle me this. Do you think he would be feeling bad about how he screwed his family over if he really was evil? This is a pop star who wants to be free from the torment of reliving his family's demise in his head. That's all he wants. He couldn't care less about demons trying to take over the world. Serving them and becoming one was just an end to a means.
All we get to do is live with our pain.
The moment he felt that there was more to his existence than escaping the past, he stabbed Guima in the back. And if making up for his bad deeds in the past meant he would cease to exist, he was okay with it. Rumi showed him that being a demon didn't stop him from also being good. He did redeem himself, but that's not why he was right to begin with. He was never wrong in the first place. He may have been a demon doing demon things, but it was never for a truly selfish cause. So when it seemed he had a higher calling, he didn't hesitate to answer it. If his heart was in the wrong place right from the start, the Huntresses wouldn't have had a chance against Guima. But by the end of the film, we can only imagine that Jinu is in the afterlife with his family, existing peacefully like he always wanted. Speaking of peaceful existences, that's all that this next villain wanted, but somehow he ended up playing the bad guy to make that happen. Sony's Miguel O'Hara is an example of what happens when someone doesn't get appreciated for the good work they do. The Spider-Verse movie franchise is all about different dimensions being linked together.
This is all of us. All of our lives woven together.
And you know the thing about interconnected worlds? People between them are always mingling. And when that happens a lot, things get f***ed up really quickly. Even things as little as villains showing up in worlds they don't belong to can spell bad news. And guess when we first met Miguel O'Hara? When a vulture who looks like he came out of a steampunk Shakespeare play shows up in Gwen Stacy's world. Yes, Miguel O'Hara pulls up looking all scary and menacing, but we see him trying to stop who we know as the bad guy.
All right, kid.
Oh,
I'll take it from here.
knock yourself out.
Even when we see him showing off his fangs Dracula style, we still don't mind because we believe he's doing the right thing. Mind you, we as the audience don't have a problem with him at this point. Do you know when we do? When it becomes evidently clear that the actions of Miles, the hero, will put an entire world in danger. We never had a problem with Miguel stopping anybody until it was Miles' turn to be policed.
Send me home.
I can't do that.
If you put away your bias for the main character for a second, it becomes very clear that the supposed villain is actually doing the right thing. Our love for our main character really does a number on us because all the signs are there. Miles saving his dad seems noble at heart, but the consequences are just too bad to let that happen. Miguel is the perfect person to try to stop him. He has literally lived through what happens when you save your loved ones when they're supposed to meet their end. He tried it before he saw his world go. As far as experience goes, Miguel knows too much to let Miles have his way.
How do you know?
Because I broke it once myself.
He's made peace with having his family gone, so why should another Spider-Man not be willing to make that sacrifice?
Okay, let's assume Miguel's backstop holds no weight and we're not going by it. We literally witnessed the Spider-Men watch a world collapse because they saved someone destined to meet their doom. They literally saw it firsthand, and Miguel explained what their actions caused.
Because you changed the story, Pavitra's dimension is unraveling.
Those of you who still think Miles wasn't the bad guy here should please explain why we thought this guy was a bad guy. Because all Kingpin wanted was to see his family again, just like Miles. His wife and son died in his reality, so he invested billions into research to bring them back. He didn't kill anybody, nobody was harmed in the making of this device. Just mastermind brains, a couple of billions, and the innocent childlike hope of seeing his family again. This is coming from a Spider-Man movie. The bad guys who normally face are some of the biggest jerks you'll ever come across in fiction. And as much as we've already tagged Kingpin as undeserving of being called an actually terrible villain, we can't forget the monstrous things he does if you pay close attention. It's all his fault his family is gone.
What are you doing?
Vanessa.
Richard, come on.
His wife walked in on him with a bloody fist as he was fighting Spider-Man. Maybe the reason people still see him as this villain is because of the fight scenes. He's not holding back those punches and every jab looks fatal. As violent as he looks, let's not forget what he's fighting for and who it's for. The chance of seeing his family again had him so pumped, the last thing he wanted was someone ruining it for him. An argument could be made that using the collider was dangerous and it threatened to tear apart the fabric of their reality, but once again, when you have a family, all things come second, even the fate of the world. You guys must agree to that.
And the collider will bring your family back.
In a movie where there's a family of 5, if you include their dog, it's hard to imagine the bad guys not being a robot. I mean, the title of this movie is literally Mitchells versus the Machines. So before this movie even starts, we already have a bias against the robots. But as you watch the movie, you start to have the very unnerving feeling that the AI villain wasn't wrong in any way.
I was the most important thing in your life, and you threw me away.
Humans really are terrible people, but the worst part of them is how they're all lovey-dovey one minute and then done with you the next. I mean, let's look at what Mark tells Pal right before the big expo.
I always thought of you as like family to me.
This doesn't sound like somebody who's going to replace her anytime soon. In fact, if I didn't know better, it sounded like two siblings getting along surprisingly well. Given what we just witnessed, it makes this moment even more heartbreaking.
She is completely obsolete. Boom!
And if getting thrown away didn't make you feel bad for Pal, seeing her get swept away sure would. So fast forward later when we learn who is behind the robots going berserk and trying to kidnap everybody, it makes a lot of sense. And if for some reason you're still on Mark's side, Pal sure does a pretty job on explaining why he and his fellow humans actually deserve less.
90% of calls from mums get ignored.
Damn, you really can't argue with what she's saying. I mean, look at the Mitchells for crying out loud. Katie doesn't get along with her dad, and the main cause of their divide is their feelings about technology. It's really something that they could look past, but their egos won't let them.
This isn't a movie. We don't have a kill code.
We don't have a kill code yet.
Even when pushed to the corner, deep down, they still loathe each other. Time and time again, we see things that only prove Pal's point about humans and their selfish, mean ways. She was only doing what was right. Perhaps the only thing she could have done differently is rehabilitate humans instead of enslave them, but come on, she was tossed away and swept into a dumpster. Going full Terminator on the human race is actually the least she could have done. Alright, movie buffs, buckle up for a hot take that might just break your cloud storage. We're talking about Smiler, the terrifyingly upbeat baddie from the Emoji Movie.
Have a teeny weeny chat.
Now, I know what you're thinking. She tried to delete the protagonist and she's creepy. But if we peel back that permanent frantic grin, we find a leader who is actually the only one trying to prevent a digital apocalypse.
Could ever make me unhappy is if one of our emoji team made a mistake.
Let's set the scene, shall we? Textopolis is a society built on one thing: functionality. In the world of user interface design, an emoji that doesn't do its job is a bug. When Jean, the meh emoji, makes the wrong face during Alex's text to his crush, Smiler recognizes a glitch.
Smiler just wants their society to be stable. She isn't being a bully, she's acting as the antivirus software. She knows that if the user thinks the phone is broken, he'll take it to the store for a factory reset. For us, that's a minor inconvenience. For the emojis, that's literal total extinction. Smiler is essentially the only person in the room aware that they are one software update away from the void. In the scene where Smiler sends the upgrade bots after Jean, it looks like a villainous hit job.
I don't know what to do. Yes, I do.
But let's look at things from a collective perspective. The greatest good for the greatest number. Smiler is weighing the life of one malfunctioning emoji against the lives of thousands of others, including the poop emoji's family, which, okay, maybe that's a mixed bag, but still. She's the only character who understands the stakes. If Jean stays malfunctioning, Alex schedules a wipe. Smiler's evil plan is actually a desperate attempt at risk management.
Well, it's too late for that. Delete them!
She's trying to delete a single file to save the entire hard drive. Imagine the mental toll staying as one expression because it's your job. Meanwhile, there's a rogue emoji somewhere ruining life for everyone. When she's losing her mind in the final act, it's not just villain rage. Jean has gotten on her last nerve. She's already spent her entire life forced to make one face, but you don't see her complaining. She's a victim of her own society's rigid rules, yet she still tries to uphold them to keep everyone else safe. Was she a bit intense? Sure. Did those bots have a kill setting that felt a bit over the top? Maybe. But in a world where different means everyone dies in a factory reset, Smiler was the only one with the guts to be the bad guy for the sake of the collective. She wasn't a villain. She was a system administrator with a really high-stress job. Next time you send a glitchy text, just remember, Smiler was trying to save your phone's life. Show some respect for the grin. Alright, time to talk about the man, the myth, the logistical legend, Steve Christmas from Arthur Christmas. Most people see him as the cold, goatee-rocking buzzkill who cares more about spreadsheets than stockings.
No, Tommy, he's texting on his calculator after another job.
But as a certified movie nerd, I'm here to tell you that Steve wasn't a villain. He was the only adult in the North Pole. Steve is the ultimate high-performing professional. While his dad, Santa, is basically a figurehead who doesn't even know how the GPS works, Steve is the one who turned a dusty, reindeer poop-filled operation into a global powerhouse.
IS-1 festivize the world at 1,860 times the speed of sound.
Steve took a tradition that was failing to keep up with the world's population and modernized it. Without Steve's S-1 spacecraft and his military-grade elf training, millions of kids would wake up to empty trees. He's the guy doing 100% of the work while his dad takes 100% of the credit. That kind of invisible labor would turn anyone a little cynical. But what moment makes us label him as evil? The big evil moment for Steve is when he calls the one missing gift an acceptable loss.
If we all just gave in to Christmas spirit, it'd be chaos.
It sounds harsh, but let's look at the logical side of it. He delivered billions of presents perfectly. In any other industry, a 99.9999% success rate is a miracle. When Arthur and Grand Santa go rogue to deliver that one bike, they almost cause a global diplomatic crisis and get the S-1 shot down.
We have luck.
Steve's logic was, don't risk the entire operation and the lives of thousands of elves for one missed delivery. He's looking at the big picture while everyone else is playing with nostalgia. He isn't anti-child, he's pro-usefulness. Steve is a classic case of gifted kid burnout. He spent his whole life training to be Santa, wearing the designer Versace Santa suit and perfecting the craft, only to be told he lacks heart because he's actually good at his job. In the end, Steve shows he was right by being the most mature person in the room. When he realizes Arthur has the magic touch with kids that he lacks, he steps aside. He didn't want power, he wanted the job done right. Steve wasn't the villain. He was just a guy who realized that being a great manager doesn't always make you a great mascot. Respect the goatee, people. There you have it. 6 Sony villains who were actually doing the right thing in their respective movies. Were there any villains you were actually rooting for when you were watching the film they featured in? Let us know in the comment section. And if you loved this video, don't go anywhere. We got plenty of other videos just like this one. How about you check out DreamWorks villains who were also right?